Oh, good evening. Yesterday I did a video talking about how when you come to the Philippines, along with many other countries in the world, it's easy to forget that what we normally face when we want to have a on the spare of the moment visit somewhere, how you have to jump through so many hoops when you live in the Philippines, especially over a situation of when you've been here more than 6 months. You're maybe on a tourist visa, but you still need to uh, seek approval to leave. Now, in some cases, it might seem fairly straightforward. It seems pretty normal to ask whether you've done anything wrong before you go, just to check that you're free to leave. That maybe you've not left the children without money to support them, that type of thing. But we're not used to that in the West. We're used to just hopping on a ferry and going over to France, if you're living in England, hopping on a plane and going to New Zealand without a visa, if you're an Australian, and vice versa. New Zealanders come to Australia the same way. But the Philippines is very generous in its ability to provide quite simple, straightforward processes. I didn't say they wouldn't take a long time, but they are nevertheless pretty well spelt out. If you marry a Filipino, you can apply and usually be granted a 13A visa, which is one given to people who marry a Filipino citizen. And of course, if you want to fully retire here, you can use many different options that are available to you, both military and non-military, to get an SRRV. And we tend to overlook the tourist visa. I know there's a few out there that like to scare monger about changes to the visa systems. I think that around the world, a lot of countries are also realizing that to pursue and chase the inevitable dollar that tourists bring into the country, it's the last thing you want to do is to make it harder for people to come to exercise their holiday options. And of course, there lies the problem. I said it, holiday options. A tourist visa is not really considered by the authorities as one to be used, I'm sure, necessarily for permanent residency. But I think it also takes into account that many of us who do come here come with a certain amount of cash in hand, which often ends up being used to build homes or to buy expensive condos. But the remaining money that they support themselves is by way of some form of a pension or an annuity. But my initial thought was always to, well, do the 3 year run. After all, you can just renew it every 2 months. Previously, you could even do it up to 6 months, but they've cancelled that now, I believe. So you just do your 2 month, drop back to BI, fill in the form, apply, and get your stamp or your sticker. But for many of us, I think I've come to think of the reality of what I said the other day. And that is that do we really want to feel we're stuck somewhere? My emphasis is that the cost of flying to some of these places outside of the Philippines to comply with your visa requirement is very little compared to the overall scheme of things. I mean, you can fly to, I don't know, let's pick Hong Kong, maybe 8 or 10,000 pesos return. Of course, you have to buy a ticket as an ongoing one. You can In many cases, you can get what I call a dummy ticket, but it's a booking, but it's not necessarily going to be used, and that may cost you $12 to $15, maybe 16. But you have to be very careful that you're not on one of those scam channels or sites that take your money and you end up with nothing much more than a piece of paper printed out. And if you were to contemplate coming and living in the Far East, hence the Philippines, I think it's a good idea now. I'm thinking about it from 2 points. One is that you don't get caught up in the after 6 months you've got to get a NBI report and a special release certificate to let you come out. But you're free to go at any point. Now, if you think about it, every 6 months, maybe 10, 12,000 pesos maximum, for a period of maybe a day or so, a couple of days, 3 days away in another country. Most pre-booked hotels start from 500-600 pesos a night. Pretty basic, but nevertheless cheap enough for you to afford it. With that, of course, it gives you an opportunity to take a deep breath and step off the wheel of the Philippines and experience what many Americans especially talk about, how they're off to Thailand for a period of time, a bit of what I call rest and recreation. And of course, when you're there, you've got options to go other countries nearby. Now, of course, if you're on a limited budget, maybe $1,000, $1,500 a month, then of course you're not able to do all of those things. But there's no reason why, if during each 6 monthly period, twice a year, that you opt to go and spend a few days overseas. Maybe Thailand, maybe Cambodia, maybe Hong Kong, wherever it is, it's well worth the effort. I think that because it gives you a new perspective as to what you've chosen as your place of residence. Doesn't mean that you're going to give up totally on the Philippines. It doesn't mean that you're going to suddenly have this brainwave and go off and live in the bush in Thailand or somewhere like that. Just gives you that moment of reflection, a moment of realizing that there are other places in Europe that may fit the bill. And it's just really having a mindset that doesn't restrict you to the idea that staying fluid is a very good way of being, especially here in the Philippines. You want to go back to Australia, you want to go and see your son maybe, or your daughter in New Zealand. At the moment you can fly back to New Zealand for under 50,000 pesos. Oh, I said 50,000 pesos. Yes, but hang on. You've got 6 months to save up for it. So putting aside is half the fun. And the best thing, of course, is catching up with family and friends. So I'll leave you with that thought as my thought for today, being Monday, the start of every week, and hope that our week and your week becomes better and better. Bye now.